It was an amazing performance.
She'd never studied acting, she'd never studied singing, she never studied dancing, and she did all three in that film. First time out of the chute. That's amazing.
When he was casting, when it finally got to be done, he had to cast, and there was one part of an American, all the guys in it were English, but there was one American part. So I said to Ken, I know you've got to use this amazing guy. I saw him on TV, his name's Tommy Tube. Ken got a tape, loved him, as I knew he would, because he's slightly eccentric as well, Tommy, and Ken loves slightly odd. And then, I mean, I'm sure Tommy will tell you the story, but Ken got hold of his phone number. I think Tommy was in LA at that time.
And the phone rang, and he says, "Hello, Tommy, this is Ken Russell." And I thought my friends putting me on, and it was really Ken Russell. And it changed my life. So Twiggy changed my life.
The brilliantly innovative film director, Ken Russell, is bringing Wilson's nostalgic musical to the screen.
Before we did the film, Ken had rewritten it, because if you've seen the film, it is the boyfriend, but he took it out of itself, and it's a group of kind of amateur players putting on a production of the boyfriend. So he had rewritten it, and he said, "I want to talk you through the new script, but instead of coming to a boring old office," this is why Ken was so wonderful, he said, "Let's go down to Brighton on the Brighton Bell."
It's a bit of old luxury of the pre-war days. And we were coming back on it too, and we were just, we timed it so we were in time for a lovely dinner, and but Twiggy, being a bit peckish, needed a bar of chocolate to sustain her before the first course was served 20 minutes later.
We were walking to the train, and I said, "I'm just going to go and get a bar of chocolate." And Ken said, "Oh, come on, don't be late for the train." I said, "Oh, well, I'm just going to get a bar of chocolate."
And lo and behold, she went up to a slot machine and did an almost impossible thing. She put the money in, and in getting out the chocolate, her hand got caught in the chocolate machine.
And I remember thinking, this isn't happening. You cannot get stuck in a chocolate machine. So I fiddled and I pulled, and it was, I was stuck.
So it was the most bitter moment of my life. There my three-course dinner was going away up the platform as the Brighton Bell set off for London. And Twiggy was out, get me bloody hand out of here!
They finally got me out with a crowbar, about 2 hours later.
It was a memorable moment.
Twiggy loved the silver screen, and the silver screen loved Twiggy. In 1973, she began work on a psychological thriller, W. It was directed by Richard Quine and starring the tall, dark and handsome Michael Whitney. Michael was 20 years older than Twiggy, but by the end of filming, the couple were inseparable.
That was a film I did in '73. It wasn't a particularly good film or anything. The director was lovely. He was quite a famous director called Richard Quine, who'd done quite a lot before. He was a sweet, lovely man. The leading man was an actor called Michael Whitney, who became my first husband. And although the marriage hit problems because he had a very bad drinking problem that I didn't know about till later, I was really green. I was 23 and everything. He was a bit older, but I don't regret it at all, because I've got my daughter with Michael, and she's the best production of my life.
In the 60s, Twiggy had been at the cutting edge of London cool, but although still very young, Twiggy's voice was not being listened to the same way it had been a decade ago. What lay in store for the iconic figure of the swinging 60s would both exhilarate and devastate her.